Welcome to the ELE-MAN-TARY podcast. We're your hosts, Sean Brady and
Kevin Klein,
two sixth grade teachers in Saratoga Springs, Utah. Today's episode I'm pretty excited for because we're going to be learning all about your friend and mine, Mr. Kevin Klein.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
Woo!
It's great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So, Kevin, inquiring minds want to know, what is the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your decision to go into education? How did you make it into the sixth grade classroom? Because I know it's not like my story. It's very unique how you got here, so just take us all the way back to the beginning.
Right. As you probably remember from last episode, Sean knew from before the time his feet could reach the floor of the car that he wanted to teach elementary. His dad taught elementary and his mom taught high school. So, mine was a different situation. I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. My dad was an economist. He did some studies for the government and sold computers. He was kind of an entrepreneurial type.
Right.
My mom she liked writing. She didn't have a job. Well, my stepmom was a professor at a university in family science.
Nice.
And I think from there I had wanted to be a professor. So, earliest memories, I loved school, loved reading. I remember some of my happy moments as a kid was on we had this brown plaid scratchy couch, and I would grab an encyclopedia, those nice maroon kind of gilded edged World Book encyclopedias, and I just crack it open and just read. Just loved just reading through the encyclopedia when I was a kid.
Nice. That sounds very 80s.
Yeah, it was totally 80s. And all those book crafts, those books about how and why, and they had just different volumes. Anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Lots of fun. So high school, I kind of, I need to pick a major, decide what I want to do. And I remember thinking, well, I like writing. I like poetry. I was writing poetry at the time.
Sure.
But, maybe I'll teach high school. And my high school teachers said, no, you don't want to do that. You could do kind of like that experience you had. You could do better than that.
Isn't that crazy that both you and I, in our experiences, we had teachers try and dissuade us from going into the profession?
Right. And so I thought, okay, well, and my mom also, hey, being a professor is a good life. So I thought, okay, well, that's what I'll do. I majored in English and got through an English degree, minored in Spanish and history. I just liked learning things.
So can I stop you there and ask, so it sounds like you were similar to me somewhat in that you wanted to follow in a parent's footstep. Did your mom have any influence on that? Because I know she was a professor.
Yeah, good question. No, not really. I think, it was a different field. Right. English, I thought, I love literature, so this must be what I want to do. I want to teach literature. So
At the college level?
At the college level,
Gotcha.
Right. So did an undergraduate in English, which, that will track. Yeah, sure, you can do other things from there. Once you get into an English grad program, and that was, I started a master's in English at the same university there, and there you foreclose on all other options for a career. What are you going to do? And I'll talk.
I like the way you describe foreclose on all other options.
Right, you are committed.
Okay.
There's some irony there, isn't there? Because here I am.
Yep.
I remember. So there's a difference between liking, loving to read, loving poetry, and having that just, the brutal immersion and that just, the amount of reading that you do as a grad student. You're reading these Victorian novels. You're supposed to read hundreds of pages a day. And, wow.
That's a lot to digest.
I realized, I like reading. Maybe I like, and researching. I wrote some papers. And I remember I wrote one, because you're always trying to find angles, right? Like, okay, what hasn't been covered before? What's a theoretical, literary theory approach that I can apply to this text and do it in a way that hasn't been done so that I can either get it published or present it at a conference.
It's a tall order, though.
Right. And so I looked at this obscure William Carlos Williams poem and this poem by H.D. Hilda Doolittle. They were both modernist poets, and they'd both written about this, again, obscure Egyptian mythological figure called Korah. And so I wrote this paper and kind of presented them in terms of a literary theorist and kind of the way that she would look at both of those maternal figures. And it got accepted to this big conference in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
The New Modernisms. And I remember going there and I was excited to read my paper. I thought, oh, this is great for my budding career. And
Right.
I got into the room and there are people reading before me. And it was my turn to stand up and read my paper. And I looked around this convention room, it was a big room, but there may be 20 or so people in there.
Right.
And I'm reading my paper and I'm looking around and thinking, no one is listening.
Oh.
No one even cares what I'm saying.
Oh, man.
And that would have been fine, but that was followed immediately with the realization, I don't even care what I'm saying. This is...
That's funny.
I wrote this paper and it was a thrill getting it accepted. Is that the whole reason I did this? Did I just do this to get recognition? And
oh, gosh.
Came back from there and was still pursuing. And I hadn't, you're supposed to have an emphasis, like, is it going to be later British lit or early British lit or American literature? And I just kept on bouncing around because I thought,
right.
I don't know what I want to commit my life to here, what specialty I want to focus on. And that's when I realized, you know what, I don't think this level of specialization is for me. And there's some pride you have to let go. Well, is it because I can't hack it? That was the paradigm that I had grown up with, If you're really bright, then you can be a university professor. If you're not so bright, you could teach high school. And then, good for you. You love kids. Why don't you teach elementary?
Yeah. You do see that. You see that in some movies and whatnot. School of Rock? I remember seeing that little hierarchy too, and they're bashing on gym teachers and stuff like that. What was it Jack Black said? He's all like, those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't teach gym. Hey, all the love to the gym teachers out there. I don't even know how you do it, but yeah, we feel you, man.
And that's what I learned. I remember, I was in the middle of my program. I had several cousins, and one of them was at the same school that I was at, and she was really sharp. And I remember running into her in the bookstore. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. What are you studying again? I asked her. Her name was Christy, and she said, ELE-Ed. And I remember saying, oh, yeah, that's great. But again, my thought was, oh, wow, you could do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
You're really sharp,
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely not proud of that, but I'm owning that I was a product of my, environment, my culture.
Right.
That's definitely a, kind of a university school. I grew up in the shadow of this university, and also it's an American thing too. And I learned that by when we lived in Australia. I talk about that in a bit, I guess. But so and that was sad. And especially this Christy, this cousin of mine, went on to be an incredible teacher. Taught first grade for a while, then taught sixth grade. While she was teaching sixth grade, and this is maybe 10 years ago, I was working at an ed tech company. And we were always looking for really great teachers to kind of help inform the materials we were making, because we were making teacher training materials. It was a company called PD360, and then they changed their name to School Improvement Network, SINET, some people knew us as. And but she tragically passed away in 2018, 2019.
Oh, my.
2017. And at the age of 40, someone that... one day, I think I want to start some sort of award in her honor, because
really,
yeah, she was such a fantastic person. Just one of these people who, again, could have done anything, but she knew who she was and where her heart was.
She was super talented and overqualified to do what she did. But how lucky we are to have had her in education, and how lucky are those kids, right?
Mm.
You say she taught first grade?
First grade for a while, and then sixth grade. And I think
nice.
She learned that she really loved sixth grade. And someone who had found herself, knew who she was, and that was a lot more than I could say for myself. For everything that I was learning, there's a line from King Lear that his daughters say about him. He hath but slenderly known himself.
He hath but slenderly known himself.
Right. So King Lear, with all the... And I guess applied to me, I had learned a lot about of things in books, but didn't quite know myself. And that
sometimes that education takes longer than a degree takes. In my case, it did. No doubt it does. I mean, I think it's a continual process in what we do, just trying to figure ourselves out, how we like to teach, why we like to teach, and sometimes we need reminders along the way. But back to you. I had realized kind of near the end of my degree, I don't care enough about any area of emphasis to actually graduate, and I guess I don't want to be a professor. About that time, I had met my wife. She was studying school psychology at the university I was at, and had come up from Australia. And just that sense of, and I guess maybe that's where my area, my research interest and my desire to learn shifted from literature to myself. Because, there were some things I probably need to learn, some childhood experiences I needed to try to integrate and to make better sense of and better use of. And so you became a student of yourself. Right. My master's thesis, I finally decided to do poetry. Okay. So, and that was creative. And I had written poetry as a kid, and you could do a creative thesis in my program, thankfully. And so I wrote a creative thesis of poetry, which was, a lot of exploring kind of these childhood experiences. Is that why you enjoyed poetry so much? Is because it helped you understand your childhood experiences better? I had always loved like Robert Frost, just the rhythm and the rhyme and the sound. That was really what attracted me to poetry as a kid. But obviously, you read a lot of people who the purpose of poetry is to try to write or discover things that connections within yourself or in the wider world that people haven't said yet, people haven't noticed yet. And so it was that process that I was after to try to make myself an easier person to live with. For myself and my wife. The wife, too. Yeah, we got married right when I was working on my thesis. So, and she was great to support me and help me out with that because I needed it. Mm-hmm. Oh, I imagine. Those can be pretty stressful. Right. So we had got married always with the understanding that we would move back to Australia when we were done. Anyway, she would move back to Australia and being her husband, I would go with her. Right. So, absolutely. Yeah, we... But at that point, I said, I think I want to be a psychologist. So I started looking into programs in Australia to do graduate work in psychology and become a psychologist. We finally get my permanent residency, and we moved down there in about 2003 and realized, it's going to take me like 5-6 years to get a degree and actually be able to teach. To be a psychologist. So you wanted to be so now it sounds like you want to go in your wife's footsteps. We got mom's footsteps, wife. I'm just making these weird connections. That is interesting. Yeah. Is it because she did it and you were fascinated by the conversations you had with her? Did what appealed to you about becoming a psychologist? What was the big thing? Wow. Sean, no one's ever you get me. I'm just trying to. No, that's I think I needed permission to do that. I needed to figure stuff out. I remember my dad saying about, before I was married, have you thought about going to therapy? Oh, your dad. And I thought, if my dad, the economist, is saying I should do therapy, okay, he's probably got a point. Yep. So that it's led to some... Of you. Right. It wasn't, I'm going to say, and everyone who knows me will agree, it was not self-indulgent. It was necessary for me to function in society. Let's just say that, to be a better... person for myself and those around me especially. But I guess what attracted me to Leah, my wife, many things, but one of them was just that sense of self she had and the sense that she was okay with herself and she could do what she wanted and not care so much about other people's opinions or perspectives. Ooh, that's powerful. Kind of like what you were saying before, Jack Black. People go into elementary teaching because they love kids. People go to teach high school because they love the subject they're teaching. And people become professors because they love themselves. I have not heard that one before. That would have been me. As a university professor, I would have been just insufferable. I would have been such a pain with such just because I had that need. I was so needy.
And that would have come across as very egotistical, I'm afraid.
So what was it you needed? Did you need like the approval of others, or what were you looking for?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just...
What would have made you insufferable?
Just because, as a grad student, I was trying to sound smart.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to, say things that hadn't been said yet and say them in a way that hadn't been said before. So,
well, I can testify Kevin has some very fancy ways of communicating, but he's a very humble, pleasant person to work with. Definitely the opposite of insufferable. So,
woohoo!
Your wife and your education must have done some good for you.
Yeah, look, life is that education, and
for sure.
I'm so glad to be surrounded by people who consider me sufferable. That's awesome.
He's better than sufferable.
Thank you, Sean.
Shout out. Good job, Kev.
Right on.
So the psychology thing. Now the beautiful thing about what you're doing now is we got to use a lot of psychology in what we do.
Yes.
But you chose to go a different route still. So let's keep this narrative going. So what happened to that? Like, what stopped you from pursuing that particular career?
Well, yeah, like I said, talking to the university there, they said, "Oh, yeah, it'll be, you have to get an undergraduate first, and then you can get a graduate degree." In Australia, you can't just start grad school in psychology if you have English undergrad. You have to get a psychology undergrad.
That's right.
And so I did a psychology undergraduate degree here in Utah at Utah Valley University. My wife was working in the counseling center there, so it was free, and I had a lot of prereqs done, obviously, because I had a graduate degree at that point, and I could just kind of push through the major classes. And so I went down there with this undergraduate degree in behavioral science. But one thing that probably the thing that helped me out the most was I worked at a residential treatment center for 18 months, and a residential teen treatment center in school, and that was fantastic. I mean, in terms of education, I still use a lot of the things that I learned, how to work with kids, how to provide structure for kids. I use that every day.
You gained a solid education from your experience there.
Oh, yeah. I remember going down the first time and just being very used to, at that point, as a grad student, you teach freshman English. I taught junior level English. Mm-hmm. In fact, in one of my junior classes, one of the students in that class was a guy named Aaron Rule, who was Kip in Napoleon Dynamite.
There you go.
But so I was used to, college kids, and then I walked down my first day of working in this residential teen center, and there are all these. I was on a girls' unit. Walked down, and they're doing their things. They don't really notice me. They're not paying attention, and I thought, well, I have nothing that in all of my years of preparation at university. Nothing has prepared me to offer these kids anything that they actually need right now.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's really humbling. And so it was a big step back. The first day they were all in a circle. They were having goal reflection time. And I remember they were reading their goals and commenting on how they did about it. One of them said, well, I need to work on not complaining as much. And I've been doing okay with that. Another one was, I need to help, need to stop minimizing my bad behavior. And responding more respectfully when people ask me things. And I thought, gosh, these people are confronting their issues and in front of everyone.
I was going to ask, did they seriously say that? Because takes a lot of maturity and humility.
Yeah, I was at that moment. I was almost jealous of them, just to say,
really, that
is so cool that you can be where you at as you can be there as a person, and they're in an environment where you can have these kind of conversations.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was kind of that self-awareness, that clarity that, and I think, again, my wife did that for me just in, as we were getting to know each other, as we were dating, just asking me questions, what do you really want in life? Things that I had kind of not really thought as much about or thought that I had already answered.
Sounds like she's really good for you.
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, she helped you get your stuff together and find out who you are and be able to deal with some of those, inner demons and whatnot.
Right.
She just really good at asking questions, good at listening, or is it a combination of both?
I think so. I think, good at being herself, being comfortable with that, and recognizing when other people are not there, and knowing, just, again, not what to say, not what to tell them, but what to ask them that will make them stop and say, okay, there's something I'm overlooking right now.
So follow-up question. I mean, now if you were to be in the same situation where you found yourself saying, I have nothing to offer these people, if you were to go back in time with what you know now and the experiences you have now, would you still have to say that to some degree, or do you feel like you have a lot to offer with all the experience you have now?
Oh, yeah. So if I went back to that teen treatment center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and fortunately, in the year and a half I was there, I think I learned a lot of that. What these kids need is someone who will just listen to them, be with them, and engage with them. Play, do the things that they are doing, just be with them.
Right.
And I had never really learned how to do that. And the whole model of that place was just have an appropriate relationship.
And a lot of times that seems to be the most powerful gift people can give to children, from my experience.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about that. But as we continue your story, what happened after that?
Yeah, went to Australia, realized, okay, we want to have a family. And I went back to that, you know what, maybe I am going to teach high school.
Okay, so now we're back to high school.
Right, and I can do that. All I need is a teaching diploma. I can do that in a year. And so, yeah, I mean, because that was humbling. I was down there for a year trying to kind of figure things out. I was working, doing some editing, but they don't have college composition courses in Australian universities. There are no general classes. And so I had nothing to offer there. I was doing temp work. I was making pallets. I was working in a chicken factory in the stacking boxes of chicken. I was unloading tires from ship containers. It was tough.
Getting
work.
a variety of experiences, brother. I mean,
right.
I feel you.
And again, just that necessary humility of I don't know if I went to 9 years of school for this. But again, I don't have anything to offer the world that anyone needs. So I'm doing this degree now in teaching, and it was a wonderful experience.
So is that a theme of a big portion of your life? Like you're always looking at what you have to offer? Because I've heard that brought up a few times. What you have to offer the world. Was that a big theme as to your existence, to what you wanted to go into career-wise?
Sounds like it, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it to me, too. I mean, it's like, I want to offer the world something. And, brother, you can't choose a better profession. There's a lot of great professions out there. Yeah. But elementary ed, man, a lot of good things to offer. But please continue. So you're working all these temp jobs, getting a whole lot of education and a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah.
And you're pursuing a high school career to teach high school. And how's that going?
It was wonderful. I mean, we had we had a daughter at that time, so life was pretty busy. Yeah, just doing the teacher training. I really liked, I think because of the relationships that I had in that treatment center with adolescent kids. I worked with girls for a year and boys for about 6 months. Again, those relationships with high school kids I really enjoyed. And I began teaching, and it was at a Catholic school in Australia. Their private system is a lot larger in Australia than here. The government subsidizes more.
Gotcha.
And so, there's some overlap, some structure, right? A Catholic school is pretty structured, not as structured as a residential treatment center, of course.
Right.
But, dress code and behavior expectations and demerits and detentions and things like that. One of my mottos in class is, discipline isn't fun, but discipline leads to fun. When we're disciplined, we have more time for fun. If we're disciplined at assemblies, kids, we win the marshmallows. The quiet seat and quiet beats marshmallows. So, right? It's not fun to sit there quietly, maybe, but it leads to fun.
That's
Here are your marshmallows. And that's directly from those teaching experiences. And loved high school. I did that for 4 years. In Australia, in that era, in Perth anyway, Western Australia, high school was 8 to 12, 8th grade to 12th grade.
Oh, wow.
So I taught 8th grade, 9th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. So,
that is a spread.
right. Coming over here, I just tell people I taught junior high. I taught high school, junior high. Well, so I taught college classes, high school classes, junior high classes, and now 6th grade is middle school in most places, but we'll still call it elementary. So
But here it's
elementary,
my friends.
But just loved that and had a real good time with some of the relationships again with those kids. We started the creative writing club at that school. We started the creative writing magazine and had a launch, and it was a big deal. And it was just so much fun to see kids doing great things, doing things that they loved, and being able to facilitate that. But one of those kids, who was a great poet, he actually became an elementary teacher, and
Nice.
Up until this year, for the last 3-4 years, his students and my students have been pen pals.
What?
Yeah.
Like a former student?
Yeah, so a former student of mine in high
Yeah.
school, his elementary students, my students, they pen pal each other.
That's fun.
It's been awesome.
That really is cool.
Mr. Libis.
Mr. Libis, shout out to Mr. Libis.
Yeah.
Well, and that gives some solid purpose to their writing as well. Which, I mean, for you teachers out there, y'all know how important it is to give children purpose in what they're doing.
Right, yeah, that authentic audience. And yeah, it gave them a reason to, slightly more care about their grammar, spelling, punctuation, right? I mean,
A little bit.
Exactly. The way people communicate informally, right, is, I don't know, how much you want to police that, but at least it gave us a reason to try.
Right.
I would tell them, hey, look, you're representing your country here, your educational system.
Yep.
Let's try to
sound somewhat articulate.
Right.
Please.
And, if it's a question, end with a question mark.
Yes.
Punctuate.
Use punctuation,
right,
please.
so that they know how to interpret what these string of words you've just said are.
So how did you land over here at Saratoga Shores Elementary School? You went high school, you've done middle school, you've tried for college, you were going the psychology route. My goodness.
Yeah.
A lot of different, and then you worked in that program helping those troubled youth.
Right. Well,
it's a lot.
Yeah, we decided in 2011, it kind of seemed like the right thing for our family to move from Perth back to Utah, where I was from, where we had met, and my parents were there. And, I had a couple teaching avenues I wanted to pursue, and so did my wife. She looked back at the university, at Utah Valley University, where she had been before.
Right.
That job for her didn't pan out, so it was kind of like, well, she could do some, because it was a psychology and school psychology degree, she could do some private counseling, so she was going to do a bit of that. But again, I needed to have a job to be the main breadwinner and get the insurance, and so I was looking into teaching. And I remember going to an interview with a school district, and even with I had 4 years of teaching experience by then, and enough credits to kind of put me in the top step. They said, "Well, you'd be making about $45,000 a year." Yeah, sorry guys,
it's tough, man.
I can't.
You got wife and you got kids and all that.
We had two young kids, and I just could not see how that was going to be a possibility. And so I looked around, looked at writing jobs, editing jobs, and was very fortunate to find a company, an ed tech company in Salt Lake, that was looking for someone who had been a teacher, but who also could do some script writing and editing. And that's where I landed at, again, School Improvement Network. I was there for 7 years, and just met some wonderful people there, people I still hang out with today.
7 years.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even close to getting you to Saratoga Shores. 7 more years
I'm
tacked
an old
on.
Man. Just for
it's
reference.
Okay. I'm up there too, man.
Yeah.
It means we still got a pulse, so we're
That's
happy.
right. In case you're trying to do the math, I turned 50 this year. So
happy birthday to you.
Still feel, at the very start of a career, which is, there's that. I was fortunate to find the phrase lifelong learner and beginner mind, which I feel like I'm still just at the start of learning how everything works.
Oh, amen.
It's apparently a good thing to have a beginner mind in Buddhist or meditation tradition.
Really?
So yeah, you want that beginner mind. Right.
There's something to be said about that. I'm kind of ashamed that I said this, and I'll throw this in here. But When I first started teaching, I was super excited and enthusiastic. But one thing I said that I regret was I would tell people, it's like, yeah, I'm a young teacher. I'm still enthusiastic and excited to be here. That's why you should want your kid in my class. But, it's that just reminds me of the whole beginner mind. That's true. And then after doing it for so long, sometimes we lose that. So sometimes it's best to go back to a beginner mind, like, okay, that mindset can be very energizing.
Yeah.
But there's so many positive things that I've picked up along the way that I feel like what I said kind of discounted the fact that some of these more seasoned teachers that have been around for a long time that maybe don't have as big a bounce in their step, it might not be because they don't have a beginner mind. It might be because they have backaches. You know what I'm saying?
Well said.
They're just not feeling so good that day, but they're still enthusiastic. They just have a lot more knowledge to the table, plus the body aches.
Right. And you know what? And there's something about economy of movement, efficiency. One of the things I did after in college was, I started doing martial arts. I did taekwondo.
Yep, black belt.
Did that for a few years, got a black belt, and thought I'll try for the second degree. So I kept on going, and I haven't done it for 20 years. But the things, it teaches you a lot of good things. And one of them is that, the better you are at it, the more minimal your movements and your energy are. You really learn how to...
Okay.
We're all wired for efficiency. The brain, people say that, right? The brain is wired to be efficient. And if you watch someone sparring who is, very seasoned, very a veteran at it, they don't block any farther away from their body than they need to block. They're covering exactly where they need to cover. Their movements are very minimal, just very precise.
Wow.
And you know what? The older you get, that could be part of that picture there. You're seeing people who are efficient.
Yes.
They don't move.
They're efficient.
And my first couple of years teaching in elementary, I was not efficient. I was all over the place, looking around at the room. I don't know if you remember this. At the end of the day, you're just thinking, okay, where's my phone? Where's my water bottle? I hope a kid didn't steal my phone. I'm just all over the place. And it's like, okay, what do I do next? And they just sit down because the room is almost spinning.
Yep.
Just
sounds
because
very familiar.
Oops. Alarm. It is.
We have a caller. No, we have an alarm that went off.
Yeah, we'll pretend that's a call. Yeah, we're gonna take this call from.
We're gonna take this call.
That was. You know what? It's spring break, and I forgot to turn off all my alarms for students to do different things. Right. So.
Yep, I have the same alarms.
We might not even edit that out because that is reality.
Yeah, it is reality. It's part of the experience of being a teacher. Alarms going off in the middle of your teaching or conversations or whatever you're doing.
Yep, and even when you're on break, you forget to turn your alarm off. So
it's like, oh, I need to send so-and-so to their class.
Right, you never truly leave.
So. No, it's always with us.
But yeah. One of the things I did, I forgot, when we moved back from Australia to Utah, is while I was looking at teaching opportunities and then trying to find a company to work at, I did some substitute teaching. They call it relief teaching in Australia. In Australia, relief teachers, I was making, before we left, about $380 a day because you have to have a teaching degree, an active teaching degree. Moved to Utah.
I want some of that.
Yeah, I know. In one district paid me $50 a day, and the other one $60 a day.
Oh my gosh!
I worked at a charter school that paid me $70 a day.
But, what a come down from Australia. I need to go substitute down there.
Oh, man. That's why we wanted to do that during our trip there this summer.
I'll bet.
Because it pays bank. Anyway. Yeah. But I had taken a job one day at a preschool, and I thought, okay, well, I used to teaching high school, but I guess I can do this, right? So I went, and I remember going to the school, and they said, okay, just follow these kids here. They had I think they were holding on to those little rings, the rope rings, and just...
Yeah.
And this little boy turns around and looks at me and just smiles.
Oh, nice.
And it was just that, that warmth. And I just thought, man, I love this kid. I love being here. Is this an epiphany about where I'm going to end up?
Oh, foreshadowing.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it's easy to look back now and kind of interpret it that way. But that experience, that feeling with, oh my gosh, I knew that this was an epiphany moment.
Right.
What exactly it meant wasn't. I wouldn't have wanted to guess it would be ending up in elementary. But yeah, that was a powerful little moment there.
Oh, I'll bet.
So anyway, did some relief teaching, substitute teaching here, and then started working for this company. And we would go around the country and film teachers teaching lessons that were aligned to Common Core standards, because Common Core had just come out, and whole districts and state departments of education were freaking out. What does this mean? What does Common Core teaching look like?
I remember.
Right, and so guess what? These companies, people wanted to throw a lot of money at resources that would help them know how to teach Common Core standards.
Right.
So for several years, our company did great with these, state level contracts where we'd go and we'd film these teachers, and I got to interview them and help, cut down the lesson, a 60-minute lesson, into like an 8-minute video of kind of highlights, and then with interview of the teacher. And most of the classrooms we were in were elementary.
Oh, nice.
And that's where I kind of got that, my first real taste of elementary school, and seeing it work and seeing the teachers and the students and the relationships they had. And that's, it's kind of what put the idea into my head. I thought, gosh, elementary classrooms, you can do so much here. About that time in my church, I was a scoutmaster, and so doing a lot. I did that for like 7 years, and then the whole point of scouts is to help the kids to lead themselves. And
absolutely.
I'm in 6th grade now. Those kids are the same age as the scouts that I worked with for years and years and years. And so it was really helpful too. And that's just, seeing the kids manage themselves, govern themselves. That's one of the biggest thrills for me.
You got a kick out of working with the scouts, did you?
It was good. I liked it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I liked it. But then, my wife said, hey, I think this is 2 or 3 years before I came to Saratoga. She said, I think you need to go back to teaching. She had gone to an award banquet of a friend of ours who got a teaching award. She taught junior high science, and she came back from that and just said, "You know what, Mindy? I just was seeing her and seeing and all the love that these people had for their teaching and the community had for them. I think you're going to go back to the classroom." And I said,
"Really?
That's way too much work. I don't want to do that.
She's not
I
wrong.
can work from home. I can take days off anytime I want. I'm just my job. I can go in it anytime I want, basically.
Right.
Yeah, teaching is great, but that is so much work.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've done all these, done so much research onto effective teaching, I'm accountable. I don't have time to do all that, and I know I should. So
all the stuff you should be doing.
Exactly, but no one has time to do it, right?
Nope. Or energy. We have to throw in energy too.
Exactly right. So that kind of, I made a couple inquiries to a couple little charter schools locally, but wasn't really serious. And then July 2018, we got bought out by a different company about a year before, and they didn't want to make content anymore. And so over the past 2 or 3 years, our content department had gone from about 25 people down to there were like 3 or 4 of us.
Oh my. Yikes.
And then
they
they
survived the downsizing?
Right, exactly. Downsizing. Finally, they said, hey, we're done making content.
Oh.
And so I had about 2 weeks before school started. And I said, okay, Leah, I think now is my time to go back to teaching. And so I started applying all different places, but mainly focusing on elementary. And I knew that's where I wanted to be.
Nice.
And got the right people.
You applied. Were you able to apply for like secondary as well as elementary?
I think I did.
Did you?
But I don't remember even having any interviews. I think I was just mainly, I went to 2 or 3 or 4 different elementary schools.
Huh.
Had the interview with Principal Valen Thomas.
Ah, yes.
Here at Saratoga.
Dr. T.
I was actually at a family reunion in San Diego. And so we did it by Zoom. That was great. That was, so they said, yeah, we'd like to hire you. And
I have to share a thought on that. I wasn't in on the interview process this time when Kevin was interviewed because I was already here. But I remember one of the teachers we worked with came back and she was all excited. She's like, "We want this guy. We want to work with this guy." And I remember just thinking, I don't know who he is. It's like, I mean, if you say so. But I wasn't as enthusiastic. But I also remember thinking at the time, I'm all like, dude, what if this guy is amazing? And Turns out he is amazing. He's an amazing dude to work with. But
Thanks.
I kind of feel bad because I had more of a, what would you say, flippant attitude. I'm like, whatever, somebody else will come along. But man, if I knew the type of coworker I was going to get, I wouldn't have been like that. I've been like her and been like, yeah, we totally want this guy. Well, so you made a good impression over Zoom somehow.
Son. Yeah. Very fortunate. This was a week before school started. I had been out of work for a couple weeks. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to have something in place to come back from that family reunion to, and come into a classroom 5 days away from the first day of school and having absolutely nothing. And I have to say, you guys were really generous. I'm
glad.
Just helping me out. And it was very unusual because we were a team of 5 sixth grade teachers, and 3 of us were guys.
That's right.
There was Mr. Brady, Mr. Allred, and me.
Mr. Klein.
And
that is not a common thing to see on a team in elementary school.
No.
At least around these parts.
And everyone just, lent me things because I had nothing for the walls. I had no books. I had, Nick let me use his plants. I still have those plants.
Nice.
You guys were all really you just rally around each other to help each other help the kids.
Well, and it is such a good team. I mean, we're still a great team, but a good team to come and be a part of because, Kevin was, he's very much a person that wants to take the initiative to help other people out. And we were all that way too. And when you get a group of people that have decided that they want each other to be successful, there is a lot of power in that. And I could definitely say that about that. You were just such a perfect addition back then because we had that. And then we got another great qualified guy that, just wanted us to succeed and wanted the children to succeed. And it's pretty sweet to be a part of a team like that.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Very synergetic.
Right. It's a good thing. And, you hope that good things stay. Because often when things are really working well, it's time to change.
Time to change. Yeah, that's one truism. Things are always changing. So I guess maybe one thing to wrap this interview, because we could talk for a long time.
I know.
I got all kinds of questions, but I guess the main question that is burning on my mind is what keeps you here? And how do we continue to keep you here? Because you've had a lot of life experiences. You've tried a lot of different things. What keeps you in a 6th grade classroom?
Going back to those early days when I would grab an encyclopedia and read on the couch, one thing I love about 6th grade and being able to teach all subjects is that it's just, it's that encyclopedia level depth to just a whole broad range of learning. And I love learning. I did that strengths finder test thing, and I was surprised, this is maybe 10 years ago in that company I worked for, input was my top strength of the strength finders, and the input just means you like learning stuff.
Huh.
I thought it would be something else, something interpersonal, but no, it's just you like learning stuff.
That's pretty nice.
Right. And so in 6th grade, what do we teach? We teach, amazing math content, intro to algebra, ratios and proportions, and statistics, and then social studies is the entire world civilization, right?
The history of the world,
the whole thing.
Yeah.
And world religions.
Yep.
And science is all about atoms and molecules, matter and energy. It's a solar system. It's an ecosystem. It's just fascinating. And I just get such a kick out of being able to cover that much.
Yep.
And if we want to deep dive into Gilgamesh, we can. If we want to do a Shakespeare, it's in the core. Everything is in the core.
And he will do that. He will do deep dives. Amen. Our core is the best. The 6th grade core is so fun to teach. I guess another question I have is, do you have a favorite? Because I know you wanted to be an English professor, or do you just serve everything on the platter that is known as language arts?
Right.
Like what would you say? First thing that comes to mind. Favorite.
Really, and that's the thing I like about it, is that the variety is my favorite, I think.
Right.
The variety, but also I have to say the thing that keeps me in the classroom, and I never wanted to be a head of department or anything like that when I was taught English in high school. But what keeps me in the classroom is being able to have, we have a jobs board, and we have every kid in the class has a meaningful job, and I've tried to do different things, like I mentioned at the start, the class pet, and we have a class money and a bank, and bank charges interest, and you earn interest on your bank, and all these kids have to figure all that out. Just to have the kids running an environment, running their own, speaking of ecosystem, they run their own classroom environment, and we have committee meetings where they talk about the problems. Okay, well, how are you going to solve that problem, and what should we do about it?
Nice.
That, to me, and it goes back a bit to the scout experience, giving kids the opportunities to lead.
Authentic experiences.
And, contribute to a community.
All right. We'd like to thank you for listening to our episode of Elementary Education, Kevin, or the Kevon episode. And with that, we'll sign off. I'm Sean.
I'm Kevin.
Have a good day.